we're going to have our next session on finance. And it's very rare to have two brothers in the same panel. So we have Ashish Malhotra and Amitabh Malhotra. Let's give a huge round of applause. To chair our next session on finance, we have with us Sindhian Amitabh Malhotra, MD, Head of Global Banking at HSBC. He has also worked as Vice President of KPMG JP Morgan, Rothschild Company. Before moving to HSBC, we heartily welcome you, sir. I'll hand over the session to Mr. Amitabh Malhotra. And we have his father also in the audience, so we have three Sindhians from the same family.
एक बार एक WhatsApp ग्रुप में इसी के ऊपर मुझे nepotism के लिए बोला गया था. So we'll have to. Okay, time is less. I know this session was also for an hour, but we'll cut it short for 30 minutes. So let's just start quickly. We'll try to take as many questions from the audience. Just some housekeeping rules. This will be for 30 minutes. I will, after introducing the panelists, will ask them one or two questions each and save the time for questions from the audience. One thing, housekeeping rules, is called Chatham House rules. That means what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. जो यहाँ discuss किया जा रहा है, बाहर नहीं किया जाएगा, क्योंकि हम सब की नौकरियाँ हैं, and there's compliance issue in that. What we say represents our view, not our firms. Secondly, if you can switch off your mobile phone or at least put it on silent. If you have the urge to take the call, please step out. Those who want to hear, let them hear. That's all my request is. Let me try to be more efficient. So let me start with introducing my senior, also batch of 83, since right now there's a lot of emphasis on batch of 83. इसके पहले भी जो performance रहा है वो 83 batch और उसके अलावा भी रहा है. This is Donald Francis. Donald, you want to come here? So just to introduce Donald, Donald is ex-Jivaji from batch of 83. He's an electronics engineer who preferred to be a money manager, and I can relate to that. However, the transition took 15 years, where he first dabbled in working in IT, telecom, mobile products, and then moved the industry in 2005, when he suddenly got the urge to be financially astute, and he claims that's because of peer pressure. Because इनके आसपास सब लोग finance की बातें कर रहे थे. By 2010, he was committed to building forum.valuepicker.com, which is a completely free collaborative investment platform dedicated to democratizing equity investment in small and mid-sized businesses in India. मुझे बहुत डर लगता है stock के अंदर. Okay, so we got to figure it out how you do it well. Today, he and his enterprise has completed more than a decade. The journey from being a novice investor, students, individual investor to fund manager, academics, domain expert has been part of a very effective investment learning and practice. The house is now in order with sound foundation, as I understand. By the way, I had called him a couple of years ago to give him money to manage it, and he said no. Okay, he doesn't remember it, but I have to remind him right now. Okay. To this effect, his partner Ayush Mittal and he from Value Picker were featured in Forbes India July 2015 edition amongst 18 other top wealth managers in the country. So that's Donald for you. Donald, when you have a seat. Next is from the family. You buy one, you get one free. Ashish Malhotra from Standard Chartered. Unfortunately, he's from JRG. Okay. He's ex-JRG from batch of 87. Ashish was the house captain and the winner. इसने पहले बोला था लिखने के लिए पहले. He was the house captain and the winner of both President's and Governor's Medal. Okay, something which I never knew how to get to. He did his mechanical engineering in BIT Durg and his MBA from Asian Institute of Management Manila. Spent 3 years post-engineering at Tata Motors in Jamshedpur and was eventually forced to go for an MBA, also due to peer pressure. That's what he says. Okay, there's a lot of peer pressure here. Okay, and encouragement from family and friends, as he says. The real reason he claims he was a rather average engineer, as claimed by him. I think that's an overstatement, as saying average engineer. He switched to finance and banking as a career post-business school and has over 25 years of experience across 4 organizations, out of which his last 20 years has been with Stanchart, and where he's currently employed, and Merrill Lynch. He has been in Singapore since 2015, and before that spent 19 years in Hong Kong. He's one of the most experienced debt capital market professionals in Asia, and I can say this because HSBC and Stanchart compete on that project, on that product. I can say that. And has raised billions of dollars in the international capital market for governments, state-owned enterprises, corporates, and financial institutions across all the countries. He's currently head of debt capital markets and credit markets financing business for Stanchart Asia. He's also the chairperson of International Capital Markets Association for Asia region. And lastly, and claimed by him, he's a keen but average golfer. There's a lot of average out here, you know, that's what you see. Yeah. All right, where's Mr. Ajmera? Go Madhav! There you go. So that's Shailendra Ajmera for you. He's from EY, Ernst & Young. He's ex-Madhav and from the batch of 1990. He's a chartered accountant and a commerce graduate from University of Mumbai. I'll refer to him as Ajmera because that's what I know him as, okay? So Ajmera is an insolvency professional registered with IBBI. As you know, a lot of NCLT processes happening around us. He's currently with EI and joined them in 2016. Prior to that, he was MD at corporate banking, also at Standard Chartered. He brings along 26 years of work experience in the banking sector and transaction advisory services, also at KPMG. He's managed various pre-deal evaluation and carve-outs for inbound and outbound strategic and financial investment. And by the way, if I'm not wrong, he handled the Ruchi Soya process, which he will not talk about much right now, okay? Obviously, our fourth panelist is the youngest, Mr. Rahul Tiwari. Youngest? No, he's younger. He's younger. Okay. Sorry, मैंने order में पहले मैं तुम्हें 91 का batch का बोला था ना? Yeah, 92. So Rahul Tiwari, you know, he's ex-Shivaji and from the batch of 1988. He's an alumni of IIT Delhi. He did his MBA from Cornell University's Johnson School of Management. He has over 25 years of versatile track record in general management, corporate strategy, investment banking, and corporate development in the US and in India. He's been a seasoned investment banker. He's worked on Wall Street. He's worked across organizations like Merrill Lynch, Deutsche Bank, RBC Capital Markets. And as a sector, he's led the technology investment banking practice at ICICI. He has advised new age technology companies, strategic transactions, billions and billions of dollars, done M&A, IPO, you name it, and he's seen it all. He's also been an entrepreneur. He co-founded Riverhead Advisors, which was a specialized investment banking firm focused on cross-border transactions. He's currently the Chief Financial Officer at Games 24/7. Have I called it right? 24/7, 27, 24/7. Which is India's largest multi-gaming platform and one of the few profitable new age unicorns. It's very important to note this, okay? Profitable, very profitable, okay? Very rare sight of unicorns to make profit. At Games 24/7, he also leads corporate development and strategy. He's recently launched Game 24/7 Ventures. So यहाँ पे जो लोग equity पैसे मांग रहे हैं, इसके पास जाएं please, okay? And he invests in early stage interactive entertainment startups. So that's the introduction. Let's get started with some of the questions. मैं बैठ जाता हूँ. Okay, we'll go with you, Donald, first. A lot of people are interested in equity questions, okay, here. So COVID and retail brokerage firms like Zerodha, I'm sure you guys have heard of them, okay? They acted as a catalyst for public investors to start direct investment. Mutual fund, SIP scheme, everything, people would prefer somebody else manage, but उन्होंने कहा अब हम खुद पैसा डालेंगे, okay? And this was against mutual fund investment because otherwise you are a professional manager. What do you think, or your advice to public investors on investing through professional asset managers, and I call you also as one of them, versus picking stocks on their own?
Sure. As you rightly said, COVID and more awareness and leisure during COVID lockdown gave people a lot of time to explore equity investments on their own. There was a lot of content also developed that time. And if you see pre-COVID, March 2020, for example, Demat accounts were 40 million. By mid 2022, August 2022, I remember very clearly, 100 million Demat accounts had been opened in India. So it's just roughly, in just 2 years, 2.5 times participation in retail equity markets happened. And that's a very good thing. Now coming to that question of equity investing personally versus handing it over to professional asset managers. And so I am not a professional asset manager, by the way. I lead an investment platform where we bring together novice investors, fund managers, academicians, students, and people like us who manage money for their own family money and stuff like that. So this is a unique platform which has brought together people who are non-professionals also, along with the professionals. And therefore, I can share a few insights on that part. And I would say that it all starts from the aspiration levels. Awareness आ गई, आपको compounding समझ में आ गई, और फिर that in a low interest rate situation, you cannot do by just putting money in the banks. Just to share one anecdote, my dad was a university topper, and I learned everything from him. And after 15 years, when I found that I was financially illiterate, I questioned him कि सब कुछ आपने सिखाया, ये कंपाउंडिंग नहीं सिखाया। स्कूल में तो सिखाया था। बोला स्कूल में सब सिखाते थे, पर उसका एप्लीकेशन फाइनेंशियल सिक्योरिटी के लिए किसी ने नहीं बताया, ना घर में, ना स्कूल में, ना नौकरी में, कहीं नहीं पता चला। So he said, beta, when I asked him why, he said, in our times, the interest rate, you remember, was 15%, 18%. So money lying in your bank account was already doubling in 4 years or 5 years. And that was not the situation in 2005 when I started realizing that I was financially illiterate, because floating rate housing loan interest was being given to me at 7%. So I said, agar save bhi karunga to 6%, then even if I'm financially illiterate, I know the tax implication of that, and then I'm left with 3.5%, and inflation, everything was at least getting costlier by 5-6% every year. I knew that. So ये तो होने वाला नहीं है, कुछ और करना पड़ेगा. So I shared that anecdote because I think it's relevant for most of us कि हम कंपाउंडिंग अवेयरनेस आ गई, कंपाउंडिंग करना है, बैंक में पैसा छोड़ना यूजलेस है आज के ज़माने में, तो किस रेट से कर सकते हैं? So if your aspiration level is 10 to 15%, you think it has to do with so many things, your risk profile, temperament, financial situation, family situation. If you want to do 10 to 15% aspiration, there is a different way. If you want to do 15 to 20, there is probably a different and a better way. If you want to do 25% plus, there is also another way, which people think everybody in my family thought I had gone bonkers. I had left very well paid salary jobs. My father-in-law thought stock market gamble है, बंगाली हैं वो, तो और भी डर गए कि पागल है क्या. So, but then there is a method to the madness, and that method to the madness is, I think, it starts from the aspiration level. तो मेरा था कि मेरे को तो I am already late. I have lost out 15 years of my thing and my wife's thing. So how do I cover it up? I'm taking too much time, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
वो बोल के गया कि 20 मिनट में खत्म नहीं किया तो रिजल्ट नहीं मिलेगा.
So I'll just try to give the essence very quickly. So the essence is that I heard ITC chairman Deveshwar ji in 2005 when I had realized I was financially illiterate, and he said, under me, ITC had grown 30% every year in the last decade. So I said, my God, here's a business which has grown 30% every year. All I have to do is buy ITC at a fair price, and the business keeps growing at 30%, my money should grow at 30%. और मैंने जाके हिस्ट्री देखा कि 2005 तक लास्ट डिकेड में 28% ITC growth was 30%, the stock had returned 28%. तो मैंने what is this madness in the market? आपको सब जगह नहीं भाग दौड़ करनी है, आपको थोड़ा सा सिलेक्टिव होकर करना है. And 2005 to 15 in ITC gave me 25% plus. At that time I didn't know anything, just simple logic. Today we do a lot of research, a lot of work, and I can say that India is a market opportunity. The whole world is looking at us. Indian businesses are growing at 20 to 25%. We find scores of Indian businesses growing at 20 to 25% every year, and they are building a global dominant niche for themselves. Small businesses, I'm not talking about established businesses like ITC, small businesses, small caps, mid caps. Our platform specializes only in small caps and mid caps. So I'll give you, just to make it more relevant, I'll give you names like Usha Martin. 10 साल तक सो रहे थे, भाइयों में झगड़ा हो रहा था. I'm very glad that I'm from the East. So a company from Kolkata finally is there on the world map. It's number 5 in the world in steel wire ropes. It's a very high technology area. Elevators, offshore rigs, सब जगह है. Destined to become number 2, number 1, because of exemplary cost management, because of exemplary design skills that they have brought to the table. Next generation is now in. जितना भी problem था पहले का, it's a turnaround from there. Shivalik Bimetal, another favorite businesses of ours. 10% market share globally in shunts which go in electric vehicles. अभी तो electric vehicle का journey चालू ही नहीं हुआ. 10% global market share आज के ज़माने में है. Where can this business go? Because we can't even put a limit to it. EV explosion हो गया. इंडिया में EV market totally इसके अंडर है. Tata Motors, Mahindras, they are all working jointly with them to develop the shunts for their own vehicle platforms. वो तो है ही है. Already 10% global market share because of design leadership, cost leadership, response time. The other competitors take 52 weeks to deliver. These guys have never had more than 20 weeks of delivery lead times. So there are there are hundreds of examples of Indian companies growing at that rate if you take the trouble to find out and do. And हमारे platform में हम बना बनाया खिचड़ी publish करते हैं for free. All these fund managers, all these academicians, people like us who are out on the field collaborate together and we publish it for free. And we write very crisp stock stories. शिवालिक पे आपको मिल जाएगा, उषा पार्टिन पे आपको मिल जाएगा, गुजरात फ्लोरोकेम पे मिल जाएगा. Many companies, you just have to search value picker stock story and you'll land on exemplary stories where we think investing is safe because they're growing at 20 to 25% and more, and you are able to buy them at a fair price. Stick with them if market is volatile. So market goes down, if you're convinced in the story, buy more of that. Don't you become more happy when your favorite toy becomes cheaper? Buy more of that. I'm so happy when it goes down. यार और खरीद सकते हैं. The only problem with equity investing is our temperament, fear and greed. If we can stay away from fear and greed, हमको चाहिए डबल करना है, डबल हो रहा है, 2 महीने में हो गया मेरे फ्रेंड का, अरे यार if I had done, 6 महीने में करना है डबल. नहीं, आप कंपनी के बिजनेस पेस के साथ चलिए, आपका डबल भी हो जाएगा, ट्रिपल भी हो जाएगा. 10 times in 10 years are these kind of stories. Usha Martin, Shivalik, Gujarat Fluorochem are the same 10 times in 10 year kind of stories that have happened in Mayu Unicoter, Astal Polytechnic, Ajanta Pharma companies that we had picked a decade back. होगा. There is a method to the madness, but yes, we need to spend time. आपके पास aspiration है वो करने का, तो 10 से 15 घंटा आपके पास है कि नहीं है डालने के लिए weekly. Start with 5 to 10. Just read the bana banaya khichdi that others have made available. Screener.in is another beautiful platform. Anybody who's interested in investing would have seen. Just go there and look at it. You will give a snapshot in 1 minute how good it is.
All right, he's my senior, I can't stop him, so I have to now tell others to be very disciplined about 2 to 3 minutes maximum in terms of time taken. So Ashish, to you, very topical. So what do you think is the impact of the Adani saga on receptivity and perception of other Indian issuers of debt amongst international debt investors?
So this is my 3rd panel discussion in the last 2 weeks, and that's always been the first one. So I think I'll keep it short. Fixed income and debt is boring. You can see equity people are better storytellers, and whereas when it comes to fixed income, it is very different. And that there in itself lies the answer to your question. The event that has happened and it's still unfolding. The simple answer: did it have impact on other outstanding securities issued by Indian issuers in the debt market internationally? The simple answer is no, but that was expected. One, like I said, fixed income and credit is very fundamental. Essentially, investors are looking at whether that particular company, based on the cash flows, can return the money at the time of maturity or not. They are able to analyze one company's difference versus the other, and that is the same reason that you don't have country indices for fixed income securities or bonds, etc. They tend to be broader emerging market indices that investors follow. The other reason is that India is a very large country. I mean, it's 5th largest GDP, and very early as the saga was unfolding, there was information available. Well, the company in itself was sharing information about themselves, and they continue to do that. But there was information available to investors that what a small proportion of banking assets are from that group. I think the number is less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
And that gave a lot of confidence to investors. And the best example of that is Standard Chartered led a bond deal, the first one from India after this event unfolded, for HDFC just last week. We raised $750 million for HDFC. We marketed it for 2 days. There was no investor concern. There were more than 150 investors that participated in it. They achieved pricing of 125 over treasuries, which is the tightest they have ever achieved. The order book was 3 times. And that, to me, is the best example of how investors will differentiate all other Indian stories and give it individual attention versus a particular group. And by the way, HSBC was on that deal.
I was just about to say that. we raised 750 million, 125 basis points. By the way, the first one for the year was from Exim,
Yep.
and we raised that.
We were on that deal too.
Okay. Sibling rivalry happening out here. Okay, let's just move on. So Ajmera, a question to you. So as a resolution professional, you have closely studied the IBC process, now fairly evolved, and you led some of the, as I mentioned, Ruchi Soya was one of them, asset monetization under it. In your assessment, how good is the reform in realizing the best value of asset and buy? And here value meaning for the lenders, because they are the one in trouble in terms of not able to recover that exposure.
Right. Thank you. So to my mind, this came about in 2016, this code. I think is one of the boldest reforms. I have been, like Ashish and Amitav and also Rahul, I have been a banker myself. I have given money to all these corporates, and little did I realize that, now looking back, I realize that whatever information was fed by the companies, I mean, you could have discounted it 30–40% at any point in time which they were giving. So coming back to the code, I think it's a really, really good code. What it has done is for the promoters used to think कि कोई शिवजी का हाथ आएगा, something will happen and things will change and money will sort of keep rolling in. It was always a green financing which was being done by the banks. Now I think they've realized the fear of actually company going away from their hands is absolutely real. It all started in 2017 with the dirty dozen, not really the dirty dozen, the dozen. Most of them have been resolved. The average recovery has been about 30–40%. But most important issue with, most important benefit is the time within which the insolvency can be resolved. You know, insolvency is not a bad word. I mean, in India, it is the creditor in possession, which is the bankers. In the Western market, in the US, etc., it's creditor under possession, where the company itself does the restructuring. Donald Trump, as you all know, has gone through 2 or 3 rounds of bankruptcies himself, and has actually become the president. So, not a very bad word if chosen correctly. But having said that, Indian government actually, the regulator rather, came up with another issue, which was not giving the lifeline to the promoter, so such that the promoter cannot now go back and buy his own company, because that would have a huge political and other issues. So that by far is a little bit of a difference between us and other countries. We by the way took it from UK, which launched this code in 1986. We did it in 2016, and as a professional, I can tell you, as a practitioner, sorry, I can tell you, the amount of changes which the government has done over the last 7 years, including 2 or 3 years of COVID, they are actually making changes on real-time basis to make this a success.
Super. And by the way, Usha Martin became what it became to give you the returns because they were scared about the going into IBP. and they had to sell the steel business to Tatas.
Yes.
So that's how it happened. So it does bring out value for the shareholders in terms of even not going into it and trying to solve for it.
Absolutely. Because equity holders get washed out.
Totally. Rahul, okay, you are the digital man, as I would say. So how is digital disruption leading to creation of massively valuable new age businesses in India?
So Amitabh, about 5 years back, I did a little bit of pivot myself just to kind of really understand what goes under the hood in some of these, mythical creatures called the unicorns, the tech unicorns, right? So, and that's a pivot that I'd highly recommend to anybody who's on the financial services, advisory, investment banking side. So I think actually what's happening is that India is big, and if you look at the consumer internet space, it's maybe the hottest market today that exists on the planet. And the reason is the youngest market, it's the largest by way of population, and the digital consumption is changing dramatically, right? So I just give you an example of the world that I come from, which is gaming, right? So Indians today download 15 billion games. And this is more than in China, more than in the US. And there are almost 500 million gamers today. So people who are experiencing gaming. And the reason for that, if you kind of look at it from the other side of the table, is that people really don't have the time to actually go see a movie today, right? There's a lot of people watching OTT. But if you really had 15 minutes of time and you had only 10 rupees, what would you do? You would look for something which is on your mobile phone, which is personalized, and it's snackable, right? So, and what has enabled that is really this entire technology ecosystem that's been created around so that these new business models can be spawned, and then they can actually go and dominate and disrupt. So this is actually what is happening on the ground. And some of the sessions that we had earlier were talking about real world problems, but this is where Bangalore is. This is where the new India is, the new people. And I'm in a company where the average age is like 29, 30. So I'm like the really senior citizen out there. And I can tell you that the ambition levels, the aspiration levels are completely different. So when you look at from the side of the investors, the size of the prize is so big, right, that some of these crazy valuations that we've seen, some of these big outcomes that we've seen are for real, right? So this is what is, I think it's fundamentally you have to kind of look at how the customer is changing. What is entrepreneurship, which is in the country today? There are a lot of young people. There are a lot of people who are ready to back these entrepreneurs. And then, these are all risky businesses as well, right? We all know that. But I think that's the journey that we are all part of, and it's super exciting. It's what is going to redefine India, is what I really think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The digital journey. You all would have heard about the number of digital transactions that are happening in India.
Yeah.
Much higher than China. It's the largest in volume. Yes. And our infrastructure is handling that volume right now and will handle a lot more. So certainly that's the revolution happening. Look, I had one more set of questions, but I've been told I have 5 minutes. I'm going to defy him. We'll have 10 minutes. And I'm going to ask the audience what questions you have. Yeah, sure. Please give the lady the mic, please. हाँ जरूर बोली जी
Right.
Oh,
I knew that.
diversity.
Boys school.
We are talking about financial literacy. Without female financial literacy, can India really progress? That's my question.
I hope they are not literate.
So do you want to point towards who that question should be answered? So, you know what, I'm glad my wife is not here right now, because she's exactly doing right now. She's actually helping women to be astute or to be knowledgeable to take their own financial decisions. Because in our country, a lot of women folk, even age-wise, different, maybe bread earner, maybe having income, but for one reason they leave the decision to the husband or the partner for that matter. It is. It is.
So, ma'am, I'll just take the lead. Other people can chime in as well. You're absolutely right. In fact, there's a lot of recognition in the industry, including the industry that I represent, that participation of women in senior leadership position is vital for our growth, our survival, for our progress. And not just that, there is data available today which actually plots where companies globally, which have got women represented in senior management at board level, how their return metrics stack up better than companies where they don't. There are businesses in South and Southeast Asia which are predominantly, and I'm sure there's one in India as well, which is about lending at the grassroots level exclusively to women because they pay back their debt better than men do. So obviously what you're saying is right, and even in my company and in my industry, it is an initiative where we are trying to balance that, have the gender balance.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in years to come, our hiring policies are like that. So we will make progress on that, and I'm sure in India we will too.
So microfinance industry is the exact example for who to lend to. Gender-based women. They honor their credit, their decisions far better than men do. So that's the power of women folk in there. And we have metrics. My bank, HSBC, every time publishes the metrics in terms of gender diversity ratio, how it's happening. And this is something that impacts our stock price also. Let me just say that. It's economics. So it's not anything that is being done purely by basis of karna hai to kaise usko fix kar de. Yeah.
Right.
Some of them are actually poor example also, but well, actually it's a Punjabi thing. If you pick it out there, everywhere you find a Punjabi behind that, okay, wherever that problem happened. But well, my head of risk is visiting from London. Her name is Pam Kaur, and she is from Punjab. So I will let her know that. Any more questions, please? 83 बैच में I think Manoj has decided कि हाथ उसी का उठेगा और किसी का नहीं उठेगा. किससे पूछना है ये भी बता दीजिएगा.
What does the panel think, with the disruption because of technology? The equity portfolio very soon will be managed by the AI-driven programs, or is it the men, or is it people still doing it? Because I think that is the best, the most foolproof way is the way AI is progressing. You can develop a very nice program and leave it for the program to sell by, whatever the cutoffs. So
Well,
what do you think?
I'll let other people answer that part. I will say in your portfolio, if you don't have enough debt, you must, particularly at the current time. But I'll let them answer this question.
You go ahead.
I think one quick answer is that's already happening. Algorithm. Crypto is a different, it's just a different bucket, but you're talking the technology. The technology does exist, and billions of dollars of transactions are actually done by machines today.
Actually, not just, sorry, I'll come back to you. Just even lending. There's a company called Lending Cart, okay? From origination to disbursement to recovery, even to decide the credit appraisal of an individual, it's an algo-based system that decides इसको पैसा देना है कि नहीं देना है. उसके बाद human interface least है. वो disburse करता है loan, फिर follow करता है recovery, least amount of human interface. So it's end-to-end digitized. Sorry, it's equity. You want to answer?
Yeah, I have a slightly different take on this. So anything in equity markets, if it is repeatable and more people do the same thing, the alpha goes away faster. So initially there will be alpha, yes, and this is what has been seen with quant algorithms that have been going on. Returns have not been what they were earlier. They are still doing a very creditable job, but in terms of, so there is a science and an art form to investing, I feel. And the science part is probably 20-30% of the job. The art part is that 70% of the job, where you are trying to imagine if somebody has done well, if a business has done well, why will it continue to do well, and go that extra mile in that investigation to see sustainability. And that part is art form totally, because there you are trying to imagine the next level for the business. You are trying to identify the management DNA, कि इस business की DNA क्या है, जिसकी वजह से इसको कोई हिला नहीं सकता. That is what we coined, a few years back when we started investing. So Reliance भी आके Astral Polytechnic को हिला नहीं सकता in CPVC business. This is what we thought, and we established it. Off the record, I can tell you that we could access GM of Reliance product management, who said, yes, we tried to do for 2 years what Lubrizol has done. It is an off-patent product for 40 years. And still we couldn't stabilize the compound. So we were very sure कि नहीं, ये तो चलेगा. तो वो जो part है, to go that extra mile in establishing scalability of a business. Will it scale 10x in 10 years? Why? Predictability of the business. How many variables are there in that business which can go wrong? I think Usha Martin is an excellent business. It will not have stretchability in valuations. It's not a new age business. It has existed for donkey's years and will continue to. But it is still valued much cheaper. And it will continue to, it's a business which is, in 20 years, there is no other business, new business that has come in, new company that has come in. The structure remains the same, those 4 or 5 guys. Very little, very high predictability in that business. You take another example, Gujarat Fluorochemicals. No modern industry can do without fluorochemicals. आपका मोबाइल फोन चलता है, इतना हर साल प्रोसेसिंग पावर इतना बढ़ जाता है, हर साल चार्जिंग इतना फास्ट हो जाता है, 10 सेकंड में बोलते हैं चार्ज कर देंगे 50%. How does that happen? How do the internal wiring and the chips handle that? Because they are coated with fluorochemicals which are able to withstand, they are inert and they are able to withstand that high temperatures. So understanding these kind of things, that this is a, and if there is a company here which is, among the 4 or 5 people in the world who can do it, and they are the most crazily backward integrated, they even own the fluorspar mines, who's going to dislodge that? Now that kind of thing for AI to come to is not going to happen so fast, because this information is not there. This information we have to dig for ourselves, talk to domain experts, go to the industry, talk to the management, find out why they think in their own way, how vulnerable their business is or not. So that is that part of the investing life cycle of a business. To understand what is a 10x 10-year opportunity, it will take time, because that information base of inherent strengths of businesses will take time to come through.
So basically field research is what is going to be very, very important to do that. One last question, Kapil. Sorry.
Actually, I had kept the mic with me, so
Madhav.
So this is, you guys are bankers and stock. So my understanding was that pre-COVID, if you look at the South region, typically the housewives, even from the lower middle class, would invest in gold regularly, maybe 100 rupees a month or 5,000 rupees a month, whatever their capacity. And there was a think tank in India, which wanted to wean away the banker fraternity and the stock market, wanted to wean them away into the newer age, investments like stocks or any other. So where are we headed? I mean, it's still a choice of investment for the set of people, or it will finally move away to the newer investment methods, tools. What will happen for India?
Look, this is personal view. I mean, I'm not specialist in this area, but India's import dependency on 3 products. Number 1 is obviously crude. Second one was gold. Gold got overtaken by handsets. And it was a huge drain till we started making Make in India program started, and now handsets are being made here. Gold still remains import dependent in terms of raw material, etc. South की जो बात है वो एक रीजनल कल्चर की बात है. देयर इज अ सिक्योरिटी एस्पेक्ट लिंक टू, आपकी बेटी होती है, बच्चा होता है, जो भी होता है, साउथ में फैमिली में तब से गोल्ड इकट्ठा करना शुरू कर देते हैं. Now what has happened, and then there's Mannapurams and the others which are financial services which are now helping you to do that. But there is a last bit out there is now you have gold ETF. You have non-physical gold which is available that you can subscribe to, take an exposure. Your hedging positions जो आप नहीं कर पाते हो वो कोई और आपके लिए काउंटर पार्टी भी कर सकता है. मेरे हांगकांग में बैंक HSBC अकाउंट में जो मेरे पैसे पड़े हैं, I have put completely in teal, which is the gold instrument that I put out there. And मुझे कोई physical gold की जरूरत नहीं है. Now it all depends on knowledge, awareness, option, availability. लेकिन South का जो है, that is a pure cultural thing. I don't think that's going away, and they're going to continue to do that. Sorry, अब तो बिल्कुल उन्होंने कह दिया अब खाना भी नहीं मिलेगा, तो उन्होंने कह दिया है. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you guys.